Hello there. This is Jen T. Grace, founder of Publish Your Purpose, and I am here for a launch interview with McAfee and Rosemary, the authors of Fearless Female Leaders. How are you both feeling today?
Excited, nervous.
Very, very excited.
It is such a labor of love putting a book out into the world. I think that, we can all, and you're both multi book authors, so you understand the challenges probably more intimately than others perhaps. And so I'm excited because the subtitle of your book is Stories and Strategies to Empower More Women to Lead. And I feel like that encapsulates your mission so clearly and so beautifully. And so before I kind of dive into the 100 different rabbit holes that I kind of have and the thoughts that I have, I want to maybe first start with the origin of how the two of you have come to know each other, to how this book came to be, and then I'll ask you a little bit about yourselves independently. McAfee, Rose, whoever wants to.
Yes, well, we actually met, Rosemary and I met in a Zoom meeting. And in fact, we were put randomly into a breakout session. And I knew in those short 10 minutes with two other strangers that Rosemary was someone really remarkable. And I just remember having that feeling, and I wanted to follow up with her. And, fast forward, months later, we are partnered to co-author the remarkable, groundbreaking guide on women's leadership. So for all of you who are out there going, oh no, another Zoom meeting, can I just tell you, you might actually meet someone incredibly important in your future. So show up and be fully engaged. That's my memory, Rosemary. What about you?
For me, when I got when I got put into the room with McAfee, it was like McAfee said, it was instantaneous. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be with her in leadership. Like phenomenal, just how McAfee is in her presence. And so I agree as it relates to everything around Zoom. I just commented a few minutes ago that we've actually never met in person, and yet I feel like I've known you for years. It's Zoom is not a barrier, and it's just been extraordinary. And we came from very different aspects with the book. McAfee's whole premise is storytelling. How do we, engage through storytelling? And mine is very much of I would call it more traditional leadership in the sense of here's the rules and here's how you do it and how you're supposed, right? And so she brought the fun into it, and I brought the rules in.
We had both the left and the right brain working. It was great.
Yeah, she pulled me over to the right side.
Speaking of storytelling, this really is the heart and soul of this book, and its origin. It began in the summer of 2021, after I had about a year of experience doing the cohort program, The Fearless Leader. That was my pivot to the pandemic. Took my whole business virtual and just started piloting this new work. And the stories I was hearing from the participants were remarkable. So I ventured out. I took a sabbatical, a summer sabbatical, and worked my tail off interviewing the people I had met, but also others, including I just happened to learn about Opal Lee, the grandmother of Juneteenth movement, and had the courage and boldness to reach out to her, and she agreed to an interview. And so it became their stories, not just a moment of fearlessness, but a lifetime of fearlessness. And so I wrote up these stories. I must have interviewed 20 people. We ended up selecting 8. So that was a very difficult decision. But Rosemary's brilliance was able to take these 8 stories, which were remarkable in themselves, each and every one of them, but put them in context, historically and current, and to really pull out the strategies and the issues that not only these 8 women, but all women face when managing their career and their lives and wanting to grow into leadership position.
These were just ordinary women. They were not, your special, notice from birth, what talent that they had. These were ordinary women that went about their business and they took on extraordinary actions to make their lives be singing. And so it's just been great to get to know some of these people as well in the sense of leadership.
Mhm.
And is it safe to assume that neither of you have met any of the women who were featured in this book as well in person?
Kathy has, I think.
I have. So I was in Rotary International in my local club, and Jane Ballard Dyer, who's the second story in chapter 6, she was our president, and I got to know her. I got to know her husband, and I remember her telling me these just jaw-dropping, outrageous stories of her experience in the Air Force as a woman trying to become a pilot. And so I thought, I want to interview her. I want to learn more about that. So I do personally know Jane. I personally know Jolly Lux, who's in chapter 9. I met her in Avon, and actually I met her on her massage table. She was a therapeutic massage professional, and I was hurting for certain. So there I am, face down, receiving her incredible gifts. And she began to tell me a dream and a goal of starting a nonprofit to give back to her home country and the people in Uganda. And I was one of the first people she shared that with. And to watch her go from, I have this idea, I have this passion, to she's now doing it. So her whole life is about fearlessness and boldness. And I think you'll be amazed when you read her story. So I know her as well. And then lastly, Eva Hausman, the founder of the Mother's Day movement. We met while conducting a Stand Against Racism workshop as part of the YWCA. And I remember our bond was we both had, believe it or not, I had short hair, and so did she. So that was our initial, like, short hair people have to stick together, she said. And I've seen her go through her Shero's journey to read a single book, Half the Sky, as you'll read in her story, and then launch a movement to help all mothers everywhere, the Mother's Day movement. So I guess 3 out of 8 I personally know, and the rest I feel like I've gotten to know at a deep, deep level.
Yeah. It's the power of networking. I feel like, the two of you, it's like such a great example, because I feel like Zoom rooms are downplayed in a lot of ways. We're like, oh, I don't have time for this. It's not as meaningful as if we're in person or whatever the case may be. But how amazing is this, that this kind of co-creation that the two of you have really kind of mothered together, if you will. And so I want to go to you, Rosemary, with, because it sounds like your job at hand was to take all of these really beautiful stories and find commonalities and threads between them to really come up with some type of actionable information for someone who's reading this to feel seen, to feel heard, and then also say, okay, there's a different way maybe I can do this, or here's stories of how other people have really done this, and now I can follow suit. And so I would imagine there's probably a number of things, but I know there's the 4 barriers. Can we start kind of there with, with the information that you were able to kind of pull out? Because I feel like that's such an interesting skill set, because I don't think I'd be able to figure out how to do that. I love a good story, but finding the pattern there, I'm curious, like, what your process was, and then also if you want to elaborate on what these different barriers are.
So one of the things that I've noticed about women, and all of us being women, we know this about ourselves, is we are naturally leaders. We just are. And there's I don't care what you do, I don't care how you were born, we're just leaders. And we go to great lengths to deprecate ourselves and to put ourselves into tiny little boxes, or at least we used to. And so one of the things that I noticed in particular around the stories is how these women pushed against that. And it started with the confidence, right? Because I know I'm good. I know that I'm okay, but I keep being told over and over and over and over again, no, you're not. No, you're not. And so who do I believe? My inner voice, or all of the feedback? Well, some of the feedback that I'm getting. And so that was one of the things that we saw. And I'm older, right? And so now I've gotten, when I was starting out in business, I got told, no, you can't do that because you don't have enough experience. And now I'm told that I'm too old. Okay, can we have a happy medium here? The answer is no. So those were two of the four barriers that we saw almost instantaneously. And one of the things that Kathy and I did was, instead of just saying, hey, we see these barriers, let's go out and talk to other women and see what they say and whether or not they see the same things. And we had over 100 women, and it was pretty tight in terms of they all said the same kinds of things that women are experiencing in general. So my background, just to tell you how I can pull those strings, go read chapter 2. It's my whole story is in there. But the bottom line is that I was raised as a tennis player, and that was my dad, and he had a tennis shop, and I used to have to evaluate people based on the words they used as to how good of a tennis player they were in real life. And that takes something, and I'm like 13 years old, 14 years old, learning this stuff. And so I took that into my business. And the thing that I've noticed that is so different as it relates to what Kathy and I did versus what the business of leadership in general is, and that's what Kathy said. We took, hey, here's the females, but then we took and said, what is it for everybody, and be all inclusive, and not just say, yes, the book is about females, right? Oops, right here, females and female leaders, but it's not just that. And to try to expand that out was extraordinary. Kathy, why don't you share something?
Yeah. Well, so there are 4 barriers that rose up in our surveys and our interviews: confidence and ageism, that Rosemary spoke about. And then the other 2 were lack of mentors and lack of support and flexibility, both at work and at home. And so with those things going on, it can be very difficult, even for the brightest, most ambitious, emerging leader, female or otherwise, to rise to their full potential. So mentorship was a really interesting one, and we address it in the first chapter, called Survey Says, Going Nowhere Fast, and also in the 5th chapter, Reinventing Leadership, with the model of leadership that we are reimagining. So we really encourage women and all people to develop these mentors, and not just one, right? Not just one person. And usually it can't be your manager, because they can fire you and they have to taskmaster you. And so developing this network of advisors and mentors and sponsors, all wrapped up into one, who can open doors for you, who can see your brilliance, who can speak for you when you're not in the room. Men and boys naturally, just those, they get assigned those. Women have to struggle. And then it sometimes makes us think, well, we got to do it all by ourselves, right? And then we have to prove that we're good, and we still do it all by ourselves. So then we're cutting off the mentor resource. And I think even for me, going through this book writing process with Rosemary, I realized, I don't call my mentors mentors. I call them partners or friends or aunts or uncles or colleagues. I always approach it, I want to be your equal. But now I realize those who have been mentoring me, who want me to be successful, and tapping into them more strategically. So no matter what age you are, it's not you get to a certain age and I'm a mentor and I could never have a mentor because I have to mentor others. You're always mentoring and being mentored. That is part of I think a fearless leader mindset. I don't know, Rosemary, if you want to talk about lack of support and flexibility at home and work and what we learned about that.
Well, being a single mom for a long time, talk about lack of support. Wow. That's I think in general, what most people look at is that women can work and it's fine, and you can go out and do your job and all of that. but you have all of the responsibilities of maintaining the home and managing the children. And if you don't do that, there's something wrong with you as a female, like either not have children, or you have your spouse or partner take on the majority of that. There's something wrong with you, or that there's something wrong with you for making it a priority to have to go home and take care of things. When something happened with my son, it was me. And so having a regular job, I couldn't do. I actually had to be a consultant as a result of that. And I think that a lot of women have to take on and own themselves is they start having their own businesses a lot more so that they can create more support. But support is a really difficult thing. And so I mentor CEOs, and I'm constantly having to tell them, could you please give your women some slack? Support them. I understand that if there's a sick baby at home, they need to go take care of that, and it's hard. We're not through that one yet.
Yeah.
Do you how long do you think it'll be until there's some significant change in this type of mindset? Because I feel like it is universally being talked about in regard, not in the right rooms is what it feels like, though. Because I remember going back in time, my son's going to be 16 in July. And, if you're sick, you're sick. I don't care what my job is or who I'm beholden to. If it doesn't matter. That's not my work is not going to be the priority if you have a sick child. And you would think that companies would just have some sense of flexibility built in. Hence the problem number 2, no flexibility, right? Because it's not just at work, it's also at home. But I'm just curious, if you had a magic, crystal ball and you're like, ooh, I would love to see something change. How far away do we think this is?
Do you want to answer that, or you want me to give my view? I have a view.
I love both.
Yeah. Well, at the current rate, I think it's 450 years till we establish equality and equity, starting with pay, if nothing else. But this is why the subtitle, empowering more women to lead, more is really key, because we need women Supreme Court justices, we need women governors, we need women school board directors, we need women CEOs. And why that's important is because we need to have a balance of female leadership traits valued. So in the book, we have the 8 great attributes of fearless leadership. And I'm just going to read them to you. And as I'm saying this, see if you can assess, is that a traditional male characteristic, or is that a female characteristic? So boldness, intuition, compassion, confidence, resonance, resilience, wisdom, and humor. And in the book, we believe all leaders need to cultivate these traits in themselves and the culture, the company organizational culture. So when we talk about flexibility and being, responsive and we'll call it kind to a female leader or employee who's got a sick child, that's compassion, right? That's compassion. Putting yourself in that person's shoes and supporting them. That's a traditional female trait, but it's not exclusively female. And we need male, compassionate leaders as well. So I think, if we could dial up that trait, value it from an organizational point of view, train it, select for it, even vote it into the presidency, right? Compassionate leaders are not really what people are excited about. They want strong men. No, we need compassion. We need compassion and resilience as a leadership trait. And those are traditional. Those 2 in particular are traditionally female.
So when the pandemic hit, I thought maybe we could shorten those 450 years up, because man, oh man, everybody had to stay home. And one of the things that men realized when they stayed home was there's a whole family dynamic here. There's a whole, I don't want to lose that connection to my kids. They care too. It's just, they're also in a traditional role they don't want to be in either. And so Yeah, so, we can look at it as, each generation is going to make some micro baby steps. Maybe, just maybe, we can start making some bigger steps here. And that's one of the reasons why we wrote this book, is because we're not satisfied with 450 years. Please and thank you. That's just way, way, way too long. I kind of thought, I really did. I kind of thought when I was a young woman that by the time I got to this age, there would be a lot of big changes. And there have been, but not to the extent that I thought.
And in many ways, we've gone backwards. I mean,
Yes.
the fact that women don't even have control over their bodily autonomy, that's the ultimate civil right violation in my mind. And we address it in the book without, respecting other people's opinions about those things. But if you can't control your body, how can you control your career and your leadership and your life? And so those things are under assault right now. It's not just restrictive, constrictive beliefs and ideas about what women should be doing, but it actually constricting legislation that's now preventing women from walking into their life and their leadership and being them brilliant selves, being in charge of their shero's journey.
Yeah, it's hard to lead when you're under attack.
Right.
There's a whole movement of saying that women should be staying in the house at home, and they should not be at work at all. And I wanted to have kids, but I couldn't imagine just being at home. And I think we should choose. Both men and women choose.
I remember when we were looking at titles of the book, we almost chose the word choosing.
Yeah.
In many ways, choosing is still in the book because it is the reader's choice about what kind of ambition they have, what kind of roles they want. If you don't want to be under that high pressure job, you have a choice. You don't have to. So the chapter 9, I believe, is called Creating New Ways to Lead. You don't have to go into the standard status quo, male dominant track. You can weave and bob and create your own thing. And that's where we're seeing more entrepreneurship come up, which is a really nice fit for women who need more flexibility and can't get it in the traditional workplace. So companies ought to be aware that if they can't create that flexibility and support for women and those career paths and stop undervaluing and underpaying and under-recognizing women, they're going to leave and go do their own thing. And that's half your workforce, by the way.
Half.
Yeah, which is a good thing to happen, right? Because you gotta be hit with the pain in order to really need to make some type of sustainable change. I feel like they have to feel the pain of it first. And I think that in the kind of the freelancer economy that we are in, I think it's only going to increase, where people are realizing, I don't need you for the benefits. The benefits alone are not worth the mental health ramifications of being employed in this particular place.
One of the women that was in one of our more recent cohorts works at a really large company, and they are very, very interested in leadership, and particularly female leadership. And this particular woman is in a male-dominated workforce section of the organization. And so she's pretty much adopted the way that men approach and deal with things, and has been struggling, which is one of the reasons why she came into the program. And so, here we are talking about, how to pull forth your female leadership. And at the end of it, I said to her, look, you got to work on your influencing trait. This is not about being a guy and saying, this is what's got to be done, and this is the way we're going. Because that's how she thought she was supposed to be, because that's how she got trained, and that wasn't working at all. And so now she's got understanding influencing, which is to pull. It's a feminine trait, right? Collaboration, influence, bringing people together to have the conversations necessary. And she's having way more success. But she gave that up. And we talk about that in the Shero's Journey. She gave that natural trait that she had up for having some of the male traits of the courage or the boldness, kind of things. So
Interesting.
Mhm.
Kathy, you've mentioned the Shiro's journey a few times. Can we just explain for those watching what you mean by that?
Okay. So the Shiro's journey is an adaptation to the classic mythology of the hero's journey, developed or at least marketed to great success by Joseph Campbell. So it shows he's got kind of a model and steps about the young male, warrior gets tasked with an assignment. He has to leave the tribe and go out in the woods and deal with himself and conquer the beast and come back, and he's celebrated. That's a very rudimentary. But for women, it doesn't kind of work that way, because once women leave the community to go out for the challenge, they're ostracized because they left. And then they're on their own on this journey, and they're trying to kind of find their way. And then they come back and they're not celebrated. Again, they are ostracized. So Maureen Murdoch, who has written some beautiful work, The Heroine's Journey is a book she wrote. I think it's in its 30th edition. It's a fantastic read. So she felt that it had to be a different journey for the heroine. And in fact, in our book, we have a beautiful illustration by Megan L. Robinson called A Tale of Two Leaders. And really, it kind of shows a modern day version of the hero's journey versus the heroine's journey. And what the experience is not the same. It's not the same. So I think your readers will love looking at that and relating to that. So the Shiro's journey is really just renaming the hero's journey, because that's been around for like 5,000 years. It's like time for a new branding maybe. So the Shiro's journey is for all people. But we're bringing in some of those feminine characteristics and attributes, and we're recognizing that there's kind of what we do on a normal course of handling external dilemmas or challenges, and we get to be successful, get victory, but we're really only one-dimensional people because we haven't done the inner work. So we believe that the treasure, the gold, is going beyond the hero's journey to look at what we call the internal impasse. And sometimes it's a health crisis, it's a divorce, you've hit a milestone birthday, something's happened that's just rocked your boat and you don't recognize yourself anymore. And that's an invitation to really go deeper into the Shiro's journey. And we've got a guide in the second illustration that Megan did for us, taking the model into facing your fears and blocks, and then integrating, and I would say facing your fears and blocks, not with fear, but with curiosity and learning, and then going into the integration of the masculine traits, the feminine traits, the self-actualization, tapping into your mentors. And then you end up, we believe, what the real victory is coming out a thriving, balanced, holistic leader. And then you can do the loop over and over, and you are a different person. You react differently. Things don't trigger you as much. You have more wisdom, one of the attributes. You're trusting your intuition. You're more resilient. And I've seen that in my own life. I just noticed sometimes you'll get a letter in the mail that will just make you freak out. And I won't name the name of the organization that can send you those letters. I noticed recently, I didn't freak out. Like it just was, I was like a different person handling an external dilemma that I didn't feel like I needed to suffer or approach it in an aggressive way. And it made it not only a better experience, but a better outcome. So we think that this is not just for Shiro females. We think we invite men and all people, non-binary, whatever, all people can go through this model and come out the best version of themselves, a whole version of themselves.
And we did a little book bonus so that you can walk through it. And if you need any additional support, give us a holler, because we're more than happy to help.
And we do want to give a shout out to Jen and Publish Your Purpose. She planted the seed about putting these QR code pages and offering book bonuses. And boy, do we go to town. So I think we have 8 book bonuses. So you definitely want to tap into all of those, including the Shiro's guidebook, which you could even do with your team.
It's incredible.
Very valuable. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, of course. I'm thrilled that this is where you landed with the idea. And I'm putting your website along the bottom of the screen where they can find the book as well. So I highly encourage people to check out your book. And will you be offering your book for sale on the website for a period of time after, it's out and launched? That way we can kind of direct people to that. Or would you say just go to your favorite place that you like to buy books?
Well, get it in your hands as soon as possible. So it is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all online sellers. Getting bookstore distribution, as you know, is a whole new challenge these days. We have a website, thefearlessleader.com, which has the program that goes along with the book. And those are 8-week group mentoring leadership development program where you can really dive deeper. So that is on thefearlessleader.com. We also are going to maintain, we did some special value bundles on fearlessleaderbooks.com. As of the day after launch, we're going to take away some of them and just keep the best 3. So if you or a member of your team have ever even thought about going into the Fearless Leader Group Mentoring Program, you want to take advantage of one of these bundles. These are the best prices, wraparound services. One of them even gets you an executive meeting with your team with Rosemary and 3 months of coaching. So, you would pay a lot more on the outside, but it's a great chance to really connect with us and get the best of our advisement and strategies that were featured in the book.
Yeah, I love that, because where else are you going to be able to get such a value for, tapping into either of your expertise is such a huge win for readers. So I love that you have all these bonuses available to folks. So yes.
And if your readers want to invite us to come speak at their conferences, whether it's just a company conference or an association conference, we have passports. We will fly. We would love to come energize, motivate, and inspire and inform your audience and help them with their Shiro's journey.
Yeah, I love that. Rosemary, any final thoughts on your side? Anything to promote, talk about, etc.?
So in thinking about today, one of the things that I was looking at is in the work that I do, I work with CEOs and I'm their CEO champion, and I work with their executive teams. And the CEOs are focused on 3 things: how to increase sales, always, how to get their people to be more productive, and basically how to make more money. And one of the things that this book does is have your leadership groups be more effective. And effective is profitability. And effective is what actually has you be able to figure out what the market wants from you and give more of that to them. So I would say spending a little time on this book is a really good idea.
I can't wait to get it into my hands personally. I have obviously seen a lot of it, but I haven't. I need to read it from start to finish.
You have to touch it. It feels so good.
Jen, could I, the one influencer in this book that we haven't yet mentioned is the extraordinary fearless female leader that wrote the foreword.
Yeah.
And she is Teresa C. Younger, president and CEO of the Ms. Foundation for Women. And her foreword is breathtaking. And if I may, I would just love to read the last paragraph. She says, "So as you embark on this journey through the narratives of remarkable women, seize this opportunity to embrace your own fearless leadership potential. Become inspired by their movements in striving for equity and justice. I encourage you to unleash your voice, your vision, and your strength, and to take the world by storm. Together, we will transcend the barriers that have held us back and emerge as leaders we were always meant to be. The transformation begins now. I love that. In fact, we love that last line. The transformation begins now. We put it on the front cover. That's what we are all striving for. So get the book, read the book, join us in this transformational movement.
Thank you both so much for doing the work that you do. It's one of those things that I feel like it never gets dull with feeling like I've co-birthed something with someone, and to be a part of this book in particular. It's like the potential is so enormous for women and, leaders to really get it, just be better and make a bigger impact. And so I'm just thrilled that we were your partner for this. So thank you both.
Thank you, Jen, and your extraordinary team at Publish Your Purpose.
Oh, you guys are brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I appreciate you.